Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff.
Absolutely believe Ohio State is the better team on the field. But Alabama, over the years, with the coaching, Saban, who's been there year in and year out, always at the national title game, has won how many national titles? It's unbelievable.
Hey, well, with LSU, so.
Yes, it's unbelievable what Nick Saban has done. You're going into the game and you trust that Nick Saban's going to have a defensive plan against Justin Fields. The question is, what Justin Fields is going to show up tonight? Is it going to be the quarterback that's going to make those outlandish, crazy throws that's going to put the Ohio State Buckeyes in trouble like he did against,
Clemson.
No, not Clemson.
Northwestern.
Northwestern. Or is it going to be the Justin Fields that shows up, that throws 6 touchdowns, 385 yards, and dominates the game at the line of scrimmage? I don't know which Justin Fields is going to show up, but if it is the good shot Justin Fields, they're going to be national champions. We got him. We got him. We finally got him. The one, the only, Mark Kelly. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, guys. That was a pretty good interview with the Mets writer.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I what's with the other guy not knowing what briefs is?
Wow. I don't know, man. I was a little lost with some of the things that we were talking about. But
sorry, he came up with the best self nickname, Jesus Jr.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was.
So what do you think is going to happen tonight in the national title game?
Well, I think that, look, Ohio State has obviously got the talent. If you could score with Alabama, you're going to give them a game. And that's all it came down to this year with every team they played. Very few teams in the SEC could put up 40 points a game consistently except for Florida. And you saw Florida played with them, and they only lost by 6. But Ohio State's got Fields will give Alabama problems because Alabama always have problems with quarterbacks that can run the option, and also that have a good running back and good wide receivers. They got Olave, they got Wilson. Both these guys had good games against Clemson, and they just exploded in the first half. 35 points against Clemson. But the biggest thing they did against Clemson was they scored when they got into the red zone. Last year they were 0 for 3 in the red zone in the first half. This year they were 4 for 5 in the red zone in the first half, and that's why they wind up getting off to that big lead. Also, when the linebacker hit Fields in the back and gave him the rib injury, that took a little momentum out from Clemson because that was kind of a cheap shot, and that inspired Ohio State, who was already pissed off at Dabo for telling them that they were the 11th best team in the nation.
So when you look at this game, what player do you believe is going to show up in this game and become the MVP of the national title game? Who do you think? Obviously, I think you have Alabama in this game. You're a big Alabama fan. SEC.
Who
do you have? I know you like Smith. I know you like Smith.
Right. I do like Alabama, but if I didn't think they would win, I would tell you. They have the best offensive players in college football this year. They had the best 3, I thought, Najee and Waddle and Smith on the offensive side of the ball that weren't quarterbacks. And all 3 of them would have been, Waddle would have been up there for the Heisman too if he would have stayed healthy. So if he plays tonight, and I don't know, he was a game time decision, that'll give them another weapon like you and I talked about before. He's a guy that, like Mechie for Alabama, you forget that he's around and all of a sudden he'll beat you deep for a 60-yard touchdown. That's the other thing about Alabama is they score quick and they score from anywhere in the field. So they have guys that are impossible matchups for Ohio State to handle when you're dealing with Smith on one end, Waddle on another. Then you have Najee coming out of the backfield, and then you got Mechie lining up in the slot. So there are a lot of weapons for them to use. But Ohio State can defend. They got really good long corners that could give them more problems than they had in the SEC. The only team that really did well against them as far as the corners was South Carolina, because they got a corner by the name of J.C. Horn, who's probably going to be a first-round pick.
I like him. He's the best corner in the draft.
Yeah, he pretty much, when they played him last year, he shut down Judy and Ruggs when, 2 first-round picks. So they're not used to dealing with big physical corners in the SEC because they're big physical wide receivers. And that's why I like Devontae Smith, because a lot of guys have talent. A lot of guys have speed. He does everything very well. He's a great route runner, probably the best route runner, that I've seen since Jerry Rice. I mean, this guy is so precise and he takes everything so seriously. And that's why he came back for another year. He could have been a first-round pick last year, but he decided to stay. And you saw his last 10 games, he had 91 catches, 1,400 yards, 19 of his 20 touchdowns, two 200-yard games, 6 150-yard games. So he has made plays, but he also is a guy that makes big plays in big games.
All right. The Jets. Where do they go? Where do they go? Doug Peterson gets fired. Where do you think the Jets go for their new head coach?
Yeah, look, the rumors that made me happy early was because I want to see them get a guy that has won and has a history of winning. There's only one guy out there like that now, and that's Cowher. Probably too old. Probably the game is passing by. You saw like Vermeil and some of these other guys that come back. They don't always have the great success. So maybe it's not the best thing that he coached. But I would like to see him amongst the people talked about. The Enemy's probably the guy that is at least the most that fits into today's NFL. I mean, he's a guy that works with and people at Kansas City, turned around that team, turned around. Nobody knew Patrick Mahomes was a couple of years ago, and he made him into a superstar. I mean, Mahomes probably would have put up good numbers anyway, but the Enemy, I think, is a really good coach. He's probably the best option for them to introduce a competitive offensive game plan, because now, unlike when they hired Rex Ryan about 10 years ago, now everything's offense. And if you don't have a good offense, and if you don't have guys, like Kingsbury or the Buffalo offensive coordinator that are just so creative. Dable's another guy. Maybe he gets a look. These offensive coordinators are very creative, and they give the defense a lot to handle. But you know what? There'll be a time when that gets answered too, and then it'll go back to defense. But right now, I think, depending on what they do, if they stay with Darno, they need to get an offensive mind in there that can give him consistency, something that he's never had. Give him weapons to work around, and give him the confidence that, like Alex Smith did when they brought in Harbaugh, you had a rough couple of years, but we believe in you and we think you can carry this franchise.
I have a question. I just want to ask about the wild card games. I said earlier that I could see both 6 seeds, either one. I don't think both of them will do it, but the Rams and the Browns both proved a lot, both mentally and coaching, overcoming all they did to win their games, not only win, but dominate their particular games. And I also think matchup wise, they could upset their particular 1 seeds the next week. What do you think about that?
Well, here, look, the thing you got to understand is Cleveland was 2-21 since coming back to the NFL at Pittsburgh. Last time they won there was October 5th of 2003. The year after they lost in a playoff game that they should have won. And there were a lot of similarities to that playoff game when they were up 24-7 with Kelly Holcomb as the starting quarterback to yesterday where they got up 28-0. And there was a point when Pittsburgh scored to make it 42-29 where I was a little bit worried if I'd be a Browns fan. But Pittsburgh just couldn't stop them. And Mayfield, look, you saw that graphic last night with the guys drafted in 2018. You had Allen, you had Mayfield, and
Lamar Jackson.
Okay? And then there's one guy that's just totally doesn't matter anymore. That's Josh Rosen. Then there's another guy kind of sitting there looking really confused, saying, how did I wind up with this team when all these other guys had this great success? So I do think that, yesterday we could have saw something that never happened before in the NFL playoffs, all right? If New Orleans would have lost to Chicago, or if Buffalo would have lost to Indianapolis, for the first time in NFL history, you would have had a wild card team hosting a game in a division round. That's never happened before. It's always been division winners hosting in the division round.
That's so interesting. It really is. Well, are you surprised of the Knicks' success early in the season?
I've been watching them. The last 2 games they played like crap. I mean, last night they did, and against Oklahoma, I think they didn't really take them seriously. They played really well against Utah. They played excellent against Atlanta, who could score. Listen, I got a funny story for you guys talking about basketball. But about 2 weeks ago, this is around New Year's Eve, and I'm trying like little things to see if I can make money off of little things. So I went on to one of the betting sites, and I normally never bet. I think it's a bad idea. I just don't like it. But I said, let me try it. You got the national, you got the national semifinals, and then you had the NBA game. So what I did was I put in like a 7-1 thing, okay, where I bet like 5 NBA games, all the over, and I bet two college football games, okay. So I hit both the college football games. I hit 4 of the 5 NBA games. I was this close to winning $4,000 off a $20 bet, and the Lakers came up 1 point shy, 229.5. They got 228. I seriously, I started to cry because I'm sitting here in a game that doesn't matter, a game I could care less about the NBA normally, and I'm sitting here screaming at the TV because Montreal Harrell can't make 2 free throws. Seriously, but that's why. Like, I should know. Just don't bet because it never works out. Never comes out good, no matter what. I mean, one of the things I did was that night the Nets and the Hawks played, and what made it harder, which is what would reward you more because there's a little chance of it happening, was the over-under for that game was like 240 because both of those teams could score. Final score was like 144 to 140, and I took the Hawks +8. So both those things worked out. And then another one was the Blazers I took with a +4 of the Clippers. But all those things worked out that I didn't think. The one thing that couldn't is you think the Spurs and the Lakers could score over 229 combined points, right? No. I'm telling you. So now that was just proof. Never bet again, Mark. I don't care how much how little you spend.
Did you win any money? Did you win anything?
No, you have to hit it perfect. See, that's the thing. Your odds go up, are very high. It's like what, like maybe 100,000 to 1 that you'll hit 7 games. Okay. Now they might be, something that you could, say Alabama. The other thing is when you bet a combination of games, either the point spread goes down or the over-under goes down or up, depending on which way you voted. So if normally the over-under was, say, 220, and you're betting 7 games, the over-under would go down, and you're betting the over-under would go down to like 215. So that helps you. But still, hitting 7 is hard. The odds of that aren't very likely, and I found that out. It happened one other time in my life when I was in Las Vegas for the Players' Choice Awards when I worked for ESPN. The same thing happened there. It was that time it was the Cavaliers and the Lakers. Lakers, again, they screw me. And that was when the Cavaliers just couldn't score. They had the worst offense. And I bet the under. And the game had to go into triple overtime to get over. Triple overtime. I'm thinking, I got it in the bag. We won like 3 games. Triple overtime. So just things like that, man.
No, you should listen to our betting show, Chaz's show. They play the handicap.
I know.
They're always winning, man.
Yeah. Well, if you hit 60%, you do good. But you know what? Like, it's just a bad idea for me. Like, the one problem I have with betting is I looked at it as like feeding an addiction. I'm not I'm not giving the drugs, but I'm being the drug, kind of the drug dealer. And so, but no, I mean, I always had a problem with it. That's why I didn't do it. So, but I don't have a problem with other people doing it. Other people want to do it. God bless them. I don't look down, judge anybody. It's all up to them. Whatever they want to do. There are people that are very good at it. They make a lot of money doing it. I never. My friend called me too, and he said you should do that. You should handicap. There's no way I would feel right about that. Anyway,
before we let you go, who do you got in the national title game? Who's the MVP?
Well, I said on the show I did last week down here that Alabama will win 42-36. Now I'm kind of rethinking it. First team to 45 is going to win. The MVP, I think, is if Ohio State wins, it'll be the running back, and I can't remember his name. I think Fields will play well, but I think that you need, along with a quarterback with the option, you need a running back that can really run, as you saw when Auburn beat them and when Clemson beat them with Etienne and Lawrence. If you have a good running quarterback and a good running back, makes it that much more effective to give Alabama problems. So I like him to have a big game. What was the other question?
Who's your MVP?
Who's the MVP?
Oh, yeah. I would say if Ohio State wins, you'd be the MVP. If Alabama wins, I think it's. I think if Alabama wins, it'll Najee.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Najee, because I think that Smith will get his 8-9 catches for 100 yards, and if Waddle plays, he's going to make a big play in this game, whether it be on special teams or from scrimmage.
That's what I think so, too. I think he's going to play surprisingly well because he's not going to get the attention of Sean Wade on the other side for Ohio State.
Right. No, sure. Now, Speedy, like you've seen Smith play, right?
I loved him 2 years ago. Everyone thought I was crazy that I said he would be better than Ruggs and Waddle.
Yeah. So would you take him if you were the Jets? Was he good enough to take at that spot?
No.
At number 2, I don't know if I would take him at number 2 just because I think Sewell is that good. If you're not going to go a quarterback, I would definitely go Fields or Lawrence, whoever's there.
Do you think there's a difference between him and like Jamar Chase and Waddle and some of the other guys?
I'm not as high on Waddle for the NFL as I am in college. I love Jamar Chase. I think
I like him too.
Him and Smith are very close to me. They're just two different types of receivers. Chase is a little more physical, not as fast as Smith. And like you were saying, Smith's a better route runner. So it just depends on what you prefer. I love both of them.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is very good. Very good. You sat out this year, but man, he was very good too. Look, before you go, Errol, there's that outside linebacker from Miami that didn't play this year. That would be a good pickup late in the first round if he's still available. He had like 19 and a half sacks last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do. But look, I'm just sick of them losing, and it'd be nice. What if everything that we look at like politics was like sports? So if we judge people as harshly on sports like we do on politics, we'd have a whole different world. I'm so glad they don't
Mark.
do that.
In Douglas, we trust. Okay.
I'm so glad they don't do that.
Mark, thank you for calling. We're going to get you on next week. I love you, man.
Love you too, guys. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the game.
Absolutely. I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
Mark Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, great show. Really, really great show we had today. I'd like to thank Wyoming defensive line recruit J.J. Uphold and Mets Mirage writer Matt Musico for joining us, and Mark Kelly. Great show. We will be back on Wednesday below the mic. Remember, you can reach us by going to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app. We'll go to iOS, which